They laughed when a limping man in a red flannel and his service dog were pushed out of a luxury harbor gala. A Navy SEAL reduced to a nobody. A German shepherd treated like a nuisance. Minutes later, alarms cut the music. Police lights washed over the glass walls. And the man who ordered the humiliation was standing in handcuffs, staring at the disaster he almost caused. What happened in that building turned mockery into instant regret, and proved that real power does not shout. It waits. If this story moved, you share it with someone who needs hope. Comment what you think real strength looks like. And subscribe for more stories where justice arrives right on time. Fog on the cobblestones. A cold Atlantic fog crept through Charleston's old harbor district, dampening stone streets and muting the glow of gas lamps along the waterfront. Jack Mercer moved slowly across the service entrance boots, scraping softly against wet cobblestones. The limp in his left leg was slight but constant, a reminder that never quite faded. He wore the same red and black flannel he always did, sleeves rolled down despite the humidity, as if the fabric itself helped hold him together. His shoulders were broad, his frame tall, but he carried himself smaller than his size suggested. Years ago, he had learned that standing out invited questions. Questions led to attention. Attention could turn sharp. At his side walked Duke. The German shepherd was 5 years old, black and tan, powerful without strain. A black harness rested across his chest, the white lettering clear even in the fog. Service dog, do not pet. Duke stayed close to Jack's left knee, matching the uneven rhythm of his gait without pulling or lagging. His ears rotated subtly, always listening. His nose worked the air with quiet purpose. Jack felt the weight of the night pressing in. The harbor smelled of salt and diesel and old wood. The Charleston Maritime Event Center rose ahead, all glass and polished stone, a modern shell set against a city that remembered too much. Tonight, the building was alive. Light spilled from its atrium. Music hummed behind thick doors. Laughter drifted out in short bursts, careless and loud. Jack paused at the threshold, hand resting briefly on Duke's harness. A grounding habit. The dog leaned into the touch for half a second, then straightened. Inside, staff hurried across marble floors, shoes clicking in sharp patterns. A gala was hours from its peak. Wealthy donors, city officials, developers. Jack was here because the night maintenance supervisor had called in sick, and Jack did not say no to extra hours. He rarely said no to anything. Emily Carter spotted him near the coat check. She was in her early 30s, hair pulled back into a neat ponytail that refused to stay perfect. Her blazer was simple, her flats sensible. She had the look of someone who cared too much in a job that rewarded indifference. When she smiled at Jack, it was genuine, not the tight politeness most people used when they noticed Duke. "I'm glad you're here," she said, lowering her voice as she glanced at the crowd forming near the main doors. "We've been hearing odd noises near the rear storage wing. Probably nothing, but I would sleep better if someone checked." Jack nodded once. He did not ask questions. He rarely did. "I'll take a look." Emily hesitated, then crouched slightly to Duke's level without touching him. "You keep him in line," she said softly, half joking, half hopeful. Duke's ears flicked toward her voice, then back to the hallway. Jack felt something tighten in his chest. Not fear. Recognition. The kind that came before storms, before things went wrong. The atrium doors swept open, and Trevor Harlan entered like he owned the air. Trevor was in his late 40s, hair slicked back and shining under the lights. His suit was dark blue, tailored too perfectly, his shoes polished to a mirror finish. He moved with practiced confidence, the kind that came from never being told no and believing that money proved merit. His laugh cut through the room loud and dismissive. People turned toward him instinctively. Jack kept his eyes down as Trevor passed, but Duke stiffened almost imperceptibly. Not aggression. Awareness. Trevor's gaze landed on them anyway. "Well, this is new," Trevor said, slowing his stride. His eyes flicked from Jack's flannel to Duke's harness. His smile widened sharp at the edges. "Is this part of the atmosphere now? Working man chic?" A few nearby guests chuckled. Jack felt the familiar heat rise in his chest, then forced it down. He had swallowed worse than words. He focused on Duke's breathing, steady and controlled. Emily stepped forward quickly. "Mr. Harlan, he's maintenance. He's here to help us prepare." Trevor waved a dismissive hand. "I don't remember approving pets on the floor." "He's a service dog," Emily said, firmer now. Trevor leaned closer, eyes skimming the harness. For what? Emotional support. Duke did not move. Jack did not answer. Silence had become his shield. Trevor straightened, already bored. "Just make sure they stay out of the main hall," he said. "This is a serious event." He walked on, laughter trailing behind him like exhaust. Jack exhaled slowly. Emily's cheeks were flushed. "I'm sorry," she said. "He does that." Jack shook his head once. "I'll check the storage wing." As he turned down the rear corridor, the sounds of the gala faded. The lights dimmed. The air grew cooler. Duke's pace changed, subtle but immediate. His head lowered. His nose traced the seam where wall met floor. Jack felt it then. A faint sound. A thin hiss, barely audible beneath the building's systems. His hand tightened on the leash. Whatever waited in the storage wing, it was not nothing. And somewhere behind him, under glass and chandeliers, laughter continued. The sound beneath the music. The fog thickened outside as night settled fully over the harbor, pressing damp air against the building, while music and voices swelled inside. The rear corridor felt colder than it should have. Jack Mercer moved with measured steps, the red and black flannel darkened slightly at the cuffs from moisture. His left leg lagged half a beat behind the right, the limp subtle but constant. It annoyed him more tonight than usual, maybe because Duke noticed everything. The German shepherd slowed. Duke's head dropped, lower nose hovering inches above the concrete floor. The black harness creaked softly as his shoulders tightened. Service dog. Do not pet caught a strip of overhead light, the white letters briefly stark against the dim hall. His ears angled forward, then outward, tracking something Jack could not yet place. Jack stopped. He closed his eyes for half a second and listened. Beyond the distant pulse of music and muffled laughter, there it was again. A thin hiss. Not loud. Not urgent enough to draw attention. Just wrong. His chest tightened. He had learned long ago that danger rarely announced itself. It whispered. It waited for someone distracted enough to ignore it. Jack followed Duke's lead toward the storage wing. The corridor narrowed. Pipes ran along the ceiling, wrapped in insulation stained by years of coastal humidity. Duke paused at a metal door marked "Temporary Equipment Storage." His nose pressed to the seam. The hiss grew clearer. Jack reached for the handle, then stopped. Voices echoed behind him. 2 private security guards rounded the corner. Both wore dark suits and earpieces, their posture stiff with borrowed authority. The taller one was in his late 20s, athletic but uncertain. The other, older, carried himself with the bored confidence of someone used to enforcing rules without understanding them. "Hey," the older guard said. "You're not supposed to be back here." Jack turned slowly. "There's a problem in that room." The younger guard glanced at Duke, then back at Jack. We were told to keep this area clear. Told by who? The older guard smirked. Mr. Harlan said you and the dog were done for the night. Jack felt irritation spark, sharp and unwelcome. He pressed it down. Anger had never helped him think clearly. There's a leak, Jack said. His voice was calm even. Gas or airline? I need to check it. The guards exchanged a look. The older one shook his head. Not our call. Duke shifted his weight nails, clicking softly on the floor. A low sound vibrated in his chest. Not a growl, a warning. The younger guard swallowed. Sir, maybe we should at least— No! The older guard snapped. Orders are orders. Jack looked past them toward the storage door. The hiss continued, patient and steady. He imagined the packed atrium, the lights, the cables. One spark. His pulse quickened. He took a breath and stepped back, hands visible. Fine. The guards relaxed just a little. Jack turned away, Duke falling into step beside him. They walked 10 paces down the corridor before Jack stopped again. He rested a hand on Duke's harness fingers, pressing into familiar straps. Stay, he murmured. Duke froze, eyes locked on him. Jack turned back toward the storage door. The limp slowed him, cost him time, but his mind worked faster than his body. The maintenance cart sat abandoned near the wall tools, rattling softly as he pulled it closer. He grabbed a pry bar, weighing it once in his hand. Behind him, the guards were distracted, voices low as they argued about protocol. Jack slid the pry bar into the door's edge and leaned his weight forward. Pain flared up his left leg, hot and sharp, but he ignored it. The metal gave with a dull groan. The hiss grew louder. Jack forced the door open and stepped inside. The smell hit him immediately. Sharp, chemical, wrong. Rows of temporary equipment lined the walls. Extension cables snaked across the floor toward portable lighting rigs. At the far end, a compressed gas cylinder stood tilted, its valve visibly loosened. The hiss came from there, steady and merciless. Jack moved fast. He reached the cylinder just as a cable sparked against damp concrete. Duke surged in behind him, teeth gripping the cable and yanking it free with controlled force. The spark died. Jack twisted the valve shut, muscles straining as pain screamed up his leg. The hiss faltered, then stopped. For a moment, there was only silence. Jack leaned against the cylinder, breathing hard. His hands shook slightly, not from fear, from memory, from knowing exactly how close they had come. The door slammed open. The guards rushed in panic, replacing authority. What the hell did you do? Before Jack could answer, alarms began to chirp somewhere in the building. Not screaming, not yet, just enough to draw attention. In the atrium, the music cut out. Trevor Harlan's voice rose above the confusion, sharp and angry. What's going on? Jack straightened slowly. He met the guard's eyes. I did my job. Duke returned to his side, standing tall, chest out, eyes steady. Jack knew what came next. Blame came faster than truth. It always did. But as he listened to hurried footsteps rushing toward the storage wing, he also knew something else. Whatever game Trevor Harlan thought he was playing, it had slipped out of his control. And the night was no longer listening to laughter. When the lights came back. Rain began to fall outside, soft but steady tapping against glass walls as flashing blue lights painted the fog with sudden color. The atrium felt smaller now. Conversations had collapsed into uneasy murmurs, and the polished floor reflected confusion instead of celebration. Jack Mercer stood near the edge of the crowd, red and black flannel darkened at the shoulders, Duke seated at his left side. The German shepherd's black harness was still spotless, the white letters clear and unbothered. Service dog. Do not pet. Jack's left leg throbbed. Adrenaline had carried him through the storage room. Now the pain reminded him that time always collected its debt. He welcomed it. Pain kept him present. It kept him quiet. Trevor Harlan did not share that restraint. What he did was reckless, Trevor said loudly, his voice sharp with practiced outrage. He stood beneath the atrium light's suit, flawless despite the chaos, one hand slicing the air for emphasis. Breaking into secured areas, endangering my guests, that man should be removed. Several heads turned toward Jack. Jack did not respond. He had learned that defending himself rarely changed minds already decided. Duke remained still, eyes forward, ears rotating at every raised voice. Officer Miguel Reyes stepped into the space between Trevor and Jack. Reyes was in his late 30s, broad-shouldered without excess, his uniform worn like something earned rather than issued. His hair was cropped close, his face calm in a way that suggested patience, not softness. He surveyed the room once before speaking. "Everyone take a breath," Reyes said. His voice was even. It carried without effort. "We'll figure out what happened." Trevor scoffed. "Figure it out fast. My donors are panicking." Reyes met Trevor's eyes without blinking. "Safety comes first." Emily Carter stood nearby, arms folded tight across her blazer. Her face was pale but set with resolve. She caught Jack's eye briefly and nodded once as if confirming something for herself. Reyes turned to Jack. "Sir, I need you to walk me through what you found." Jack hesitated. The old instinct to downplay his role rose automatically. He forced it aside. "There was a leak in the storage wing," he said. "Compressed gas, loose valve, electrical cables on damp concrete." Reyes nodded slowly. "And you went in anyway?" "Yes." Trevor laughed sharply. "You hear that? He admits it." Reyes raised a hand. "I also hear that he stopped something worse." Reyes gestured to Duke. "Your dog." "He alerted me," Jack said. "Smell and sound." Reyes studied Duke with new interest. "Good training." Duke did not move. A technician approached Reyes, whispering something urgent. Reyes listened, then turned back to Trevor. "My team confirmed the valve was loosened deliberately." The room stilled. Trevor's smile tightened. "That's ridiculous." Emily stepped forward then. Her voice shook at first, then steadied. "Mr. Harlan ordered us to reduce technical staff this week. He wanted the storage wing accessed without supervision." Trevor spun toward her. "Watch yourself." Reyes lifted his hand again. "Miss Carter, please continue." Emily swallowed. He said a minor incident would delay the signing tonight. He wanted leverage over several property owners. Jack felt something cold settle in his chest. He thought of the way Trevor laughed, of how easily people had joined in. A younger officer knelt near the storage wing entrance, holding up a plastic evidence bag. Inside was a work glove smeared with gray paint. Reyes took it. "This was found near the cylinder." Trevor frowned. "And?" Reyes glanced at the floor, then toward Jack. Mr. Mercer noticed something else. Jack nodded. "Footprints. Wet. Paint residue. Same gray used at the Harlan Pier renovation." Trevor's face flushed. "That proves nothing." Reyes turned to another officer. Run it anyway. The atrium doors opened again, this time admitting a frail woman in a knitted coat. Her hair was silver, her posture bent but unbroken. Mrs. Linda Shaw clutched a folder to her chest, eyes darting, as if she expected to be told she did not belong. Emily moved to her side. She's one of the property owners. Mrs. Shaw spoke softly. Mr. Harlan's people told me if tonight went wrong, my land would be worthless. The words landed heavy. Jack felt anger rise again, hotter this time. Not the quick flash of insult, but the slow burn of understanding. Trevor had not just mocked him. He had gambled with lives. Reyes exhaled slowly. Mr. Harlan, I'm going to ask you to come with us. Trevor laughed louder than before. This is absurd. The cuffs clicked closed around his wrists. Silence followed. Real silence this time. Jack watched Trevor's expression change as the room no longer responded to him. No laughter. No agreement. Just space. Duke leaned lightly against Jack's leg. The weight grounded him. Jack realized then that the moment he dreaded had already passed. The attention. The questions. He was still standing, and Trevor was not. What the walls were hiding morning arrived pale and quiet. The rain washed away, leaving the air cool and heavy with the smell of wet wood and old brick. Grant Miller woke before dawn, seated at the kitchen table where he had not meant to fall asleep. The red and black flannel was still buttoned, creased now, as if the night had pressed itself into the fabric. Jax lay at his feet, head resting on his paws, eyes open, always watching. The harness straps were still on the warning clear. Service dog. Do not pet. The house felt different after the night before. Not safer. More honest. Grant stood slowly favoring his left leg and walked the length of the hallway. His fingers brushed the wall near the staircase, stopping where the paint felt uneven. He paused. He did not know why, only that something pulled at him there. Rachel was already awake, sitting at the table with a mug she had not touched. Her face looked older in the daylight shadows, carved deeper by worry. She could not hide anymore. I didn't sleep, she said. Grant nodded. Me neither. Upstairs, the girls were quiet. That worried him more than noise. Grant pressed his palm flat against the wall near the stairs. It shifted slightly. Not much. Enough. He frowned, then pushed harder. A section moved inward with a soft click. Behind it was a narrow cavity. Old. Deliberate. Rachel rose slowly, eyes widening. What is that? Grant reached inside and pulled out a small metal box, dust-coated, heavier than it looked. He carried it to the table and set it down carefully like it might break something invisible. Inside were folded papers yellowed at the edges. A letter on top. Grant recognized the handwriting immediately. His chest tightened. Rachel did not ask. She watched his face, reading the change there. Grant unfolded the letter. His mother's words met him without mercy. If you are reading this, then the house has done what it was meant to do. He swallowed. She wrote about silence, about how empty houses did not just rot wood, they rotted people. About how she had seen women and children disappear through cracks no one noticed. About how she had decided that this place would never be one of those cracks. Grant's hands shook as he read. She knew, he said quietly. She planned it. Rachel sank into the chair. Planned what? Grant looked up. For this house to be a shelter, not charity. A pause. A place to breathe. Rachel's eyes filled. I didn't know, she said quickly. I swear, I thought it was a program. Temporary. I believe you, Grant said. The words surprised them both. Maya appeared in the doorway, then fully dressed, posture straight. She had been listening. Grant could tell. So that man, Maya said. He wanted the house because it was empty. Grant nodded. He wanted it because no one was supposed to fight back. Maya considered that. He didn't expect you. Grant almost smiled. Almost. The truth settled into him slowly, like weight finding its place. He had spent years avoiding rooms that reminded him of loss. His mother had seen that coming. She had built a trap. Not for criminals. For him. Jax rose and pressed his shoulder lightly against Grant's leg, grounding him. Later that afternoon, Tom Alvarez stopped by again. No uniform jacket this time. Just a plain shirt, sleeves rolled up, rain boots still muddy. We're building a case, Tom said. Derek's not as clean as he thinks. Grant handed him the letter. Tom read it once, then again more slowly. She was smart, Tom said. She was stubborn, Grant replied. Like me. Tom nodded. That helps. He'll push again. Men like him don't stop when they slip. They panic. Grant looked toward the window. Let him. After Tom left, the house grew quiet again. Rachel prepared food without being asked. Lily followed Jax everywhere, stopping just short of touching him, whispering apologies to the harness. Maya sat on the stairs watching Grant like she was memorizing him. Grant fixed a loose porch board, then a hinge. Small things. Things that stayed. Rachel watched him work. You don't have to do this, she said. I know, Grant replied. That's why I am. Rachel hesitated. We can leave. I don't want to bring danger to you. Grant straightened slowly, the familiar pull in his left leg sharp now. Danger showed up on its own. Maya spoke without looking up. Leaving doesn't make danger stop. It just moves it. Grant met her gaze. She did not flinch. Night came again, calmer this time. The fog did not return. Grant stood in the hallway outside a door he had not opened in years. His mother's room. He rested his hand on the frame. Not yet, he thought. But soon. Downstairs, Rachel tucked Lily in. Maya lingered in the doorway, watching Grant with quiet certainty. The house settled around them, boards creaking as if adjusting to new weight. Somewhere nearby, a man named Derek Vance was realizing his mistake was larger than a fall on wet wood. And regret, once started, did not slow down. Quiet things that last. A pale afternoon sun broke through thinning clouds, drying the harbor streets, as Charleston settled into a calm that felt earned rather than forced. Jack Mercer walked along the waterfront path, the red and black flannel hanging loose on his broad frame. The limp in his left leg was more noticeable when he slowed, but he did not rush it. Rushing had never helped him heal. Duke moved at his side, black and tan coat catching the light black harness firm across his chest. Service dog. Do not pet. Stood out clearly as if it had always belonged there. The city had changed its tone. Not loudly. Not in the way headlines changed. It was subtler than that. People spoke more carefully about the gala now. About Trevor Harlan. About the arrest that had come too quickly for spin to soften it. Construction permits along the harbor stalled. Meetings were postponed. Lawyers replaced publicists. Jack watched it all from the outside. A news van idled near the pier, its logo bright and impatient. A reporter paced beside it, phone pressed to her ear, scanning faces for someone worth chasing. Jack adjusted his path slightly, keeping Duke between them and the cameras. He felt the familiar pull of attention and resisted it without effort. He reached the old wooden bench near the water and sat. Duke lowered himself beside him, alert but calm. Jack's thoughts drifted to the night of the gala. Not the danger. Not even the insult. What stayed with him was the silence that followed. The way a room full of powerful people had suddenly realized how fragile their comfort was. He had seen that look before. In jungles. In deserts. In places where rank meant nothing when systems failed. His phone vibrated once. A message from Officer Miguel Reyes. Brief. Court proceedings moving forward. Trevor would not walk away from this. Jack did not reply. Footsteps approached along the pier. Measured. Careful. Emily Carter stopped a few feet away, hands tucked into the pockets of a light jacket. She looked more rested now, though her eyes carried the weight of long days. She waited for Jack to acknowledge her before speaking. They finalized the investigation, she said. The city voided all pending contracts tied to him. Jack nodded once. Emily glanced at Duke, then back at Jack. They asked if you'd speak at the council meeting. Jack let out a quiet breath. I won't. She smiled faintly. I figured. They stood in companionable silence, watching gulls circle the water. Emily shifted her weight. I'm leaving the events center. New job. Community safety office. Jack turned slightly surprised. Good. I think so, she said. It feels right. She hesitated. I wanted you to know. You didn't just stop something bad. You changed how people here think. Jack looked out at the harbor. People change when they choose to. Emily nodded. Still. Thank you. She left him there, walking back toward the city, with a lighter step than before. Later, as dusk settled, Jack rose from the bench. His leg protested, sharp and familiar. He accepted it. Duke adjusted immediately, slowing without command. They took the long route home, past storefronts closing for the evening. At a small grocery near the corner, Jack stopped. The clerk, a young man with tired eyes and an uncertain smile, rang up his items quickly. You're the guy from the pier, the clerk said. Not accusatory, just curious. Jack met his gaze. I work nearby. The clerk nodded, satisfied enough. Your dog's impressive. He does his job, Jack said. Outside, the sky darkened to deep blue. Streetlights flickered on, reflecting in shallow puddles. Jack felt the day settle into his bones, heavy but manageable. At his apartment, he fed Duke first. Routine mattered. Duke ate, then sat patiently waiting. Jack sank into the chair by the window, stretching his left leg carefully. Pain flared, then eased. He watched the city breathe. For years, he had believed the best way to live was unseen, to let the world pass without asking anything of him. That belief had kept him safe, but it had also kept him still. Now he understood the difference. Being quiet did not mean being absent. It meant choosing when to speak, when to act. Duke rose and rested his head against Jack's knee, careful of the injury. Jack's hand found the familiar fur without looking. We're staying, Jack said softly. Duke's tail thumped once. Outside, somewhere along the harbor, laughter rose again. Not cruel this time. Not careless. Just human. Jack leaned back, listening. Some things did not need to be chased. they endured on their own. Sometimes the miracle is not thunder or fire. Sometimes it is a quiet moment where the right person chooses to act and harm is stopped before it is seen. Faith often works this way. God places people where they are needed, not where they are praised. A janitor, a passerby, a tired soul who still listens when others laugh. In everyday life, we are tested not by big choices, but by small ones. Whether we speak, whether we stay silent, whether we protect what is right when no one is watching. If you believe God still moves through ordinary people, let this story remind you to trust that purpose. Do what is right. Leave the rest to Him. If this story touched you, please share it with someone who needs hope today. Comment with your thoughts or a prayer, and subscribe for more stories where faith, justice, and quiet courage meet. May God bless you and keep you.